So good afternoon, February the 12th, 2015. This is CISG114, Section 1, Web Technology and Life. Today is day number 12 into week number 6. So let's get started. And indeed, a very nice week before the Chinese New Year's holiday. Okay, welcome back. Excuse me for being a little bit late. I have a very sumptuous lunch, and this is day number 12. We talked about the ideas of virtual office, the ideas of methods, and also the ideas of the social bookmarking as of this past Tuesday. And we introduced to you a very interesting virtual assistant Denise 1.0 on Tuesday. And you know that, and I hope you did read all of these. And today we're going to come back to the virtual office. The virtual office is a very interesting concept. So step number 1, to give you a 1 minute head start, actually 2 minutes. Okay, I will let you see this in a minute, but not now. All right, so it's very interesting. Okay, this past Tuesday, Alice is not here, but Kelvin, you were here, right? And Jack is here, and you have already been introduced to Denise, okay, the virtual assistant. So virtually, Denise could do most of the things listed here, but what can Denise do? Can you guess? No? Now remember, this is an advertisement, okay? This is an advertisement by a company called Advantage Business Center. So normally in the United States, because business is the key, right? And people need offices to carry out the business. And normally, there are many entrepreneurs. For example, as a college student, you can set up your own business, and many people do that. But in order to set up your business, you have to meet people okay? And you need locations to meet people. And normally, if you do not have a physical office, it's very hard for you to meet people where you want. And so, in order to save the cost of a lot of people who happen to start up companies, their virtual offices means it's a kind of company, they set up the facilities to set up your office, but you do not need to rent the office all the time, like on a monthly payment. That is very high. So you can rent the office the time you need it, okay? Just like when we would like to check out something, if the gym room is available for us, we check and we book the room, okay? And the fractions of the cost. And depending on the facilities and services you want, in particular, when you want it, you can get it. You better pay a monthly price. It's very small, $100 something. And if you believe your business comes up at something good, you want to use a service like this because you need locations to receive your physical mails. You need locations to meet your customers. And then you also need some decent facility, like a receptionist to help you. Well, their needs is the virtual assistant as a receptionist. Okay, if you watch the video there, you can understand that. It's very interesting. And so, now you know something about this. What's the purpose of setting up a virtual office? To facilitate your business at a very economical price. Okay, compared to setting up an office, which you have to do what? Rent a place, renovate the space, do some government paperwork to register your office there, put someone there to serve you, say 8 hours a day, 40 hours per week. Your cost is very high. But with a kind of virtual office here, with the use of a physical, say, meeting room, you just need to pay, say, 100 something per month. Okay, and you understand the meaning of that. So let's go to the news class.
When you hear the words virtual office, what do you think of? A laptop or a BlackBerry maybe? I bet desks and break rooms probably never even crossed your mind. But virtual offices are quickly becoming a solution for small businesses that want to enter new markets, but without the high costs. In this morning's Wall Street Journal, small business editor Wendy Bounds took a look at a few of the companies that offer those kinds of offices, and she joins us here this morning. This is like smoke and mirrors, like trying to look like you're everywhere when you're really not, right?
If you have a space when you don't. I mean, as you know, having office space is one of the most expensive things a small business has to do. It can be a noose around their neck if they're not careful sign a long-term lease. Shared office spaces where multiple companies have offices under one roof with amenities like coffee machines and kitchens and things like that. That's been around for a while. Now they're pushing, Carl, as you said, virtual services where small businesses for a smaller fee, $150, $350 a month, can get an address and a telephone number in a market, maybe where they're expanding, but have no physical space at all or rent space temporarily.
If you need the space, you can get it by appointment.
Right.
Otherwise, you just have your phone line and maybe a fax number.
Right, and it shows that you have a presence. Like a law firm, for instance, that is expanding out into California. Let's say they're based in the Northeast. They don't want to spend to have to sign a five-year lease. They know they want to have a place where their clients can go and meet. They can have their attorney work at home, but when he needs a place to go, then he can, like you said, make an appointment and go use the space that day.
What I like about this story is it really points to companies. We talk so much about CapEx and how companies are nervous about investing a lot, especially in new markets.
Right.
This is a way to get a toehold, but not necessarily commit. As you say, 5 year, 1 year.
1 year. I mean, you can even do this for a month. And think about it. We're in a global economy. You want to set up a business presence in Spain. You can have, within an hour, you can call up and with one of these services from a Regis group or another player, you can have someone answering your calls in Spanish that day. And you can have a presence in that market, again, without, like you say, investing all the money to get a physical space that you might wind up not needing.
You say there could 4,000 of these in America, 5,500 worldwide?
Yeah, and it's fast growing. And I think what's really interesting is that they are going after the small business market now. And I think that, again, this was something in the old days people used to kind of shy away from shared office concept. They thought it wasn't real office space. We've got a mobile workforce. We've got all these wireless tools. And we have small businesses now who really are starting to take advantage of this because they say we can be everywhere without having to pay, to pay the cost.
Some of the drawbacks, I guess, would be if, in fact, you can't manage to get space on the time you want it.
Right.
And some of these fees over time, I imagine the more services you want, the more those fees add up.
That's an excellent point, because it's not as if every fax that you send is included in that monthly fee. You have to pay extra for the faxing, for the copying. And let's say you have someone down the hall, who's making a lot of noise, someone like a Liz Clayman who likes to play her music while she's working, something like that. That in turn can be something, you can't just go fire that person. They don't work for you, so you have to take into account that you are in some shared space. And again, if you're just using the virtual model, maybe you won't be able to get an appointment that day. And those are some things you have to weigh when making these decisions.
That's interesting, but especially the international component too.
Right.
For those who have no familiarity with those kinds of markets, it's a nice way to get in.
Yep, especially if you're a startup, this is one of the things you really want to think about, is not having to plunk all your money into office space right away.
Right. That's expensive.
Yeah.
Wendy, thank you.
Thanks,
Wendy Bounds.
Traders overseas are wrapping up their...
You see, the ideas of this virtual office has actually got a lot of attentions in the United States, because it's flexible business for flexible income. So now, let's come back to a couple of very interesting things, which we're going to show you in a minute. All right. So the thing here is, you have some ideas about why we need virtual office: cost down, flexibility. You do not need to afford the capital of some office. And from this news piece, you know that many virtual office providers are already operating in the United States and North America. Have you heard about virtual office in China today? Suppose you live in Beijing, you want to do business in Guangdong. So definitely through the web you can do it, but you need to meet customer, right? And so instead of asking your customer to come to Beijing, you want to meet them in Canton. So you might have to go to Canton. But if you have an office there, so much better. But if you really have to rent an office everywhere in China just to meet customer, your cost is very high. So not only we meet in a hotel, we sit in a conference room, and people will travel here and share ideas. And I think the virtual office concept here is one step more flexible than a hotel room, and maybe the cost is lower, because if you want a hotel room, it's very expensive. So this is a very interesting thing. Now let's try to see how virtual office work in United Virtual Office context.
All right, so you've decided a virtual office is the perfect solution for your business. What an excellent choice. Now, you may be asking, how exactly does the process work? And in what ways do I benefit starting right now? Here's how it works. A, get your personal address. The moment your business begins using an office address, one with reception, conference rooms, and personalized interaction, credibility shoots through the roof. There is absolutely nothing worse than handling everything business-related via your home, personal cell phone, and coffee shop meetings. B, live reception. This is far more valuable than meets the eye for reasons previously explained. A personalized receptionist focused on your business who answers every inquiry under your business name is essential. No longer must you question the number calling, forget an important address or meeting, or let unprepared moments ruin chances of closing a prospect. Business should be handled at your convenience, and a personal receptionist offers just that and more. C, get results. That's right. When incorporating the above principles into your business, functionality and overall results will surely follow. These services offer incredible savings in time, money, and convenience. As a business owner, nothing is more beneficial than those luxuries. Your credibility will increase, stress will drop, and customer interaction becomes a primary focus. Could it get any better, and for such an incredible rate? Fact is, you are losing money right now by not employing a virtual office. Your business is not achieving its full potential. And for what reason? You have a turnkey solution at your fingertips, with the potential to launch revenue to entirely new levels. How many possibilities are truly available for under $150 per month? Think about an office that functions to the same capacity costs a minimum of $3,500 per month to maintain. And that's a bottom dollar statistic without amenities. Call now 1-888-456-3342 to request a customized quote and begin reaping the benefits of United Virtual Office. A new era of business has arrived. 1-888-456-3342.
Now, this is a real commercial. You can actually call them to rent your virtual office. Now, the question is, are you convinced this is good for you? Okay, are you convinced? What can you do about this? Oh, are you from the Faculty of Business Administrations? Are you doing MBA courses? Which faculty? Okay, Jack. So it means a faculty of arts and humanity and Alice. Portuguese arts and humanity. You're not from business administration. If you are from business administration, you might be more sensitive to that. But even that is the case, you see that, okay, maybe we can start something like this. So at the end of your study, okay, suppose you are going to finish your college study in 3 months, okay? So what are you going to do? Find a job, or you can go to the graduate school. Now, if you want to find a job, what does it mean by finding a job? So if you got a job, you work for the company, you start earning a living. And that's one interpretation, right? Why not create a job for yourself? You understand the meaning of that? So when we say, let's say, instead of finding a dream job, let's create a dream job for ourselves. So let's create a job. So what does it mean by create a job? Well, if I find a job, if I got employed, I'm going to start making my living. When someone will pay me money at the end of the month, I got salary. Now, if you're going to start out by creating a job yourself, what do you need to do? Well, you need money at the very beginning. So, because if you want to create a job on yourself, you're setting up your own business. Okay? If you set up your own business, you need some basic setup. Okay? You need to know what you can sell to people. Okay? Sell your service, sell your product. Okay? And then, in order to sell your service, in order to sell your product, you need to communicate that you have this service and you have this product offered to the community, which is going to be useful. And how are you going to communicate with it? So, maybe you go to a newspaper and you buy one whole page of newspaper and tell you that I am whoever, I have this product, I have this service. And if people could buy you, they called you, okay? Now, so what does it mean? What does it mean? You have to be very conscious of what you get first before you can get what you want. Okay? So the context of a virtual office, and actually in Macau, if you're not aware of that, I'm going to inform you. If you are a college student, you want to set up a company which is related to technologies in the business or education, whatever it is. In Macau, we have what we call the Technology Incubation Center. They have a full floor of offices, more than 200 offices, okay? And they would let start-up companies to use them free of charge for some time. And normally those start-up companies are college students who are from Macau or who are from somewhere else, but they have a Macau identity, and they can use an office, okay? And that center is going to set up the paperwork for them to register the company in Macau, and they will publish this company's profile, your company's profile in the registry, and people can look at it. And you just use the service free of charge. Or suppose you have this, and you can save the capital cost of renting a service, doing advertisement, asking for help from a lawyer to register your company. All of these are very good. But in a place like the United States or even China, today in Hong Kong, you do not have many such opportunities, and you need to set up things on your own. And so if you believe you can self-employ and earn your living by producing your services, which the market, that means the community needs, you need some kind of channel to communicate your service to others. And the best way, definitely, is what these advertisements have said, it's you do it the least amount of expenses possible. That means you do not need to afford them. But where do you get the money to do investigations or research and development to prove that your product works. But in the United States, particularly in California, when you're doing IT, okay, there are different kind of company or even a band that will listen to different new ideas from college students, okay? And if they believe your ideas works, they're willing to give you some seed money, okay? The seed money is not given to you. You have to pay back when your work really gets some returns. Okay, the seed money normally is sufficient for you to carry out your company for 1 year, okay, including giving you the expenses to rent a space, buy equipment, hire certain number of employees, and at the end of that 1 year, normally your budget dries up. Now the next thing is you need some more money, and then people look at the product you did and see you did it all right. And so if you have a service like this, you can reduce a lot of your expenses. And so different kind of competitors can give you different kind of edges. And you can see that reasons why this comes up and acceptable there, it's very interesting. And definitely, if you can make the best use of which resistance like this is resolved, last time it was so much better. So what does it mean? Well, let's talk about this, called a technology for social good, okay? Just a couple of minutes. Okay, let me make sure it's activated.
Technology is very exciting at this time in our lives, and 100 years ago, I don't believe that people could have imagined that we would be talking on phones that weren't connected, let alone GPS systems guiding us in our cars. And I also don't think that we can imagine 100 years from now what technology is going to be doing in our daily lives. But what I would like to imagine is that technology is going to be used not only for what it can do on a return on investment, but also for what it can do from a return on humanity, and how technology will be enabling social good and making things better for the people and the planet. Now, my early days of technology started at Hewlett-Packard, and as you can see, other things have changed besides technology, including this kind of mullety perm thing that I had going on. But anyhow, my first experience with technology was working as a cost accountant. And I thought I wanted to be an accountant, and it was between my my sophomore and junior year at IHE. And so all summer long I was adding debits and credits, and it was very manual. There wasn't systems to do it automatically, but a system came out, and the IT department tried to get the accountants to use it. They were very skeptical. But I was like, I can't keep doing this, it's so boring. So I implemented the system with what I was doing, and gained a lot of productivity, had a lot of much more accuracy in what I was doing, and I fell in love with technology. The next summer I took some programming classes and changed my major from not just business to also computer science, and became a computer programmer and began working in the business computing area. And I remember that summer thinking, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. I just enjoyed it so much. So I carried on with my career in technology. I was able to do many different things. I did every job in IT. I managed every job in IT, and then I started managing bigger and bigger organizations. And what I found was I not only had a love for technology, I also had a love for transformation. So I became a regional manager and eventually a global manager, and I was really working on the technology for computer support or customer support, and also just really transforming things to make them more efficient, make them everything, from a cost, from an efficiency standpoint. And eventually became the vice president in charge of a global organization that spanned over 100 locations across the world. But something started to shift about 6 years ago, and I started thinking, this is really wonderful. I've broken through the glass ceiling. I've enjoyed my career immensely, loved working at HP, every minute of it, just very challenging, amazing people. But what I started discovering was I really was missing something. I wanted something more purposeful. I wanted to do something that really made a difference. So I made a decision to leave HP after 29 years, and it was a bit like jumping off a cliff in a free fall. I mean, here I'd been in this career, I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. And lo and behold, I found that I did have wings and that there was a life after my corporate world. So the first thing I did was I went with my husband to a trip to Scotland, and we hiked the West Highland Way. I will mention that I've been a traveling executive for many years, so I wasn't in very good shape. And we did 96 miles in 7 days. So one of my first discoveries was I really needed to get in shape. But along with that, I just started doing a lot of self-reflection. It was like a 96-mile meditation of, what do I want with my life? What do I want to be doing for the next part of my journey? And then I decided I wanted to go to India and do a little bit deeper meditation and just experience the culture. I'd been to India many times as a business, but I'd never been there just to immerse myself in the culture. So I started a blog before I left home, and it was called Someday Has Come, so my friends and family could follow my journey. I took cooking classes, I took art classes from family that I became very, very close with, just really great experience. And then I spent 10 days in an ashram and did the whole silent meditation, and every day we woke up and we were doing yoga and then meditation and then 2 hours of seva, which is service. And we would do all kinds of things, cleaning pots that were this big, because it was a huge, very, very large organization structure there. And one day I was assigned to sit on the ground at a table with a bunch of other Indian women around it and sort mustard seeds, a pile this high, millions of mustard seeds, to find which ones were stones and which ones were mustard seeds. And it was just such a profound experience, spending every day 2 hours doing something that was helping something else in the world. And what I discovered during that time is that my purpose was really to be in service, and that everything that I do needs to be of a greater purpose, not just what the task is, but doing something better. So I went off and came back, and I wrote a book on diversity and leadership. I had a lot of experience about culture and had a real passion for that. I also led a project with some other folks to do a documentary about teens and substance abuse, which is very, very cool because it's being shown across the nation and helping lots of people. And now I'm a co-founder, CEO, and president of a startup company, and our mission is to amplify the power of inspiration to uplift humanity. And I feel the connection between finding what I find purposeful and my background in technology is just a very amazing place to be right now. Now, there are a lot of technologies in the world that are doing great good. So this is an application called Jamban. It's integrating music. People can play music with the touch of a finger. It's helping people that have limited mobility actually do engage in music in a new way. There's microfinancing out in places like Africa where people can buy goods, then sell them to their clients and pay back a microloan all in the span of 1 day. There's protein folding, where basically they have gamers engaged in games without any knowledge of medicine, but these games are designed to help them match patterns and accelerate science. Just amazing things. This is my mom. She's engaged in social media with being connected. So it's helping us stay connected and feel connected across the globe with friends and family. And she's a gamer also. She plays Words with Friends and stays connected with people that she loves. Technology is just helping us on so many ways. We have online courses that people can take. When people couldn't get away from work, or they're too distributed from where they can even have access to education, they can now collaborate across the internet. It's helping people learn in various ways that they didn't have access to before. So technology is extremely powerful, and there are a lot of really well done, really great things going on from a social good standpoint, but it's just nearly not enough. And right now, technology is accelerating at such an extreme rate that we need to take and harness that technology and look at how can it do something for people, how can it do something for social good. What can we do to take the amazing discoveries that are being made and weight those against what we have in terms of challenges in our world. And so not just looking at the technology and its application in a business transaction sense, but in a much more broad sense. I love my career at HP. It was amazing. 29 years, very challenging, but I can tell you the last 4 years have been nothing short of magical. being able to take a purpose that I find that is serving a greater good, and taking what I've done with technology and leadership and bringing those together is just a really wonderful place. And I really challenge you to look at what can you do to find what's purposeful and meaningful in your life, and take that, look how technology can enable it, because technology can enable it even if you're not a scientist. There's many different ways that we can do this, and actually apply that to get a return on humanity and making the world a better place. Thank you.
Let's come back for a very brief summary first, okay, before we come back to the next episodes. I hate to say it, sometimes my computer doesn't listen to my command. Okay, here we go. Yes. Because it's...
Good morning, I'm Andy Ridley. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Earth Hour. Now, I didn't start my career in the environment movement. I actually started my career...
Okay, that's good. Here we go. Let's stop that first. Do you understand what the lady said? Okay, here. Okay? The lady is a very successful businesswoman. He started as an engineer in a Europe Banker in a small group, and later on he enjoyed his work so much, and he did programming, and he became a regional manager, and later on he became a global manager, and finally he became vice president of Europe Banker, and he'd been there for 29 years, and all of a sudden he discovered that I need to stop doing what I'm doing, because there's something more in my life I want to explore. And then he said, I am a technology people for all this years. What can I do with technology now that I can do something good for the society? And what examples of technology has he eliminated? And has she enumerated? Not eliminated. Okay? Do you remember? She's now the CEO of a company which advertised the use of technologies to help humanity. Japanese is a type of arts of humanity. Portuguese is also a type of art of humanity. Or can you use Japanese to help people to understand more about humanity? Or can you use Portuguese to help people know more about humanity? What's a major government? Okay. What can you do with a government structure to help raise humanity? Well, a lot of things, okay? I'd like to put together a lot of different questions. I don't have any answer at this point. Now we switch from the idea of setting up virtual office for young folks who would like to save money in order to promote a business, and then we study the advance of technologies to use a virtual assistant to help us to manage our office, even though in the context of this, they have some limitations, which is actually solved by a lot of provider of the virtual office with a small amount of money per month. Okay, I'm not doing advertisement. And then we switch to a lady who's been through all of these, quite successful, and she switched back to do something more meaningful. And then we are asking for what kind of technologies that we can use to actually come to the goals that's advocated by this kid box. Well, let's see. Today, we're getting into not the internet, but the internet of things. So let's go to a very interesting talk now.
My name is Carla, and I am a product designer. But at the very core of my being, I am trained as an industrial designer or mechanical engineer to make physical things, but along the way became very seduced by the digital world. And so I'm both an industrial mechanical engineer and an interaction designer. And being a hybrid is both wonderful and problematic. It's problematic because people want to put a label on you and try to figure out who you are, and they can't. But it's also very wonderful because it allows you to carve out a space that's really special and that's your own. And for me, that space is interaction for physical products. And having this special space has given me the opportunity to work on some really wonderful projects. This is one of them, and it also is my strong connection to Atlanta. During my year as a visiting associate professor at Georgia Tech, I was a designer of the shells for this robot. His name is Simon. Simon is an upper torso, humanoid, social robot. And what that means is that Simon takes cues from people and uses them to learn how to do certain tasks and how to actually express himself back and relate to people. So for example, there are pads in Simon's hands. If you hand him an object, he'll hold it up to his eyes, which are cameras, and if he doesn't know what to do, he'll ask, and then he'll actually learn from that. And we tried to build in as many modes of expression as possible. You can see that there are these kind of helmet ear pods, and they have LED lights embedded in them that can change color and intensity. So this gives us another aspect of expression. And here are some of Simon's different expressions. And he's really quite expressive, and it's really quite a special moment the first time you meet him, and you're able to just interact the way you interact with a person. But we also did design Simon to be somewhere in between a machine and a creature. So there's also a lot of appliance aesthetics so that we temper people's expectations. But Simon is really a research platform meant to push the boundaries of what an appliance in the home might be. And what I do on a day-to-day basis is I work for a firm called Smart Design, and we work on creating products for everyday life, such as the ones you see here. But what I'm always trying to do is push this idea of interaction for physical objects and bring some of what Simon has in terms of being able to interact with them naturally and with intuition into these everyday objects. But that's pretty challenging because what you see here is how a lot of objects have been due to economics, due to this, what you can afford in an everyday object, and I call this the black rectangle. So we're often limited to just push buttons and whatever could be bought off the shelf. But now we're starting to see a lot of changes. This is a lamp from Mathmos, and by gesturing with your hand, you can control the intensity of the light. We can also caress objects. This is a concept from Bang & Olufsen for a remote control that you gesture. And we can also use our voice and yell or talk. This is a wonderful project by an artist whose name is Kelly Dobson. And what she did is she created a number of appliances where it's kind of the flip of Simon. And what you have to do is talk the appliance's language. So if you create the sound that the blender makes, you can start to relate to the blender. But I think it's got some really interesting implications for how we might relate to an object. Some of my colleagues at Smart created this AeroHive. It's a router, and one of the things we're starting to see is expressive lighting. So we're becoming very sensitive to changes in color and intensity of light. A router is usually a really mysterious device, but with this slice cut into the corner, you can kind of see inside and see what's happening inside the brain of the router. This is something that we're really familiar with. And what I wanted to talk about is dynamic behavior. So not only do we have lights, but we can program those lights to have some kind of behavior over time. This is the sleep indicator, and you might have noticed it kind of breathes. And people seem to understand this intuitively because the designers at Apple are really sensitive about this, and they designed this to pulse at 12 beats, 12 pulses per minute, which is the same as an adult's breathing rate. We breathe at 12 breaths per minute. So we just look at that and say, oh yes, it's still alive, it's breathing. This is one of a series of experiments from an interaction lab that I created at Smart Design. And what I was trying to do is, in addition to looking at the intensity and the color of the light, what I wanted to do is, just with a simple matrix of 8 by 8 LEDs, you can start to add onto that iconography as well as animation. So this is a cube that can be programmed to have 4 different states, and if you roll it on one of the 4 sides that you see, it will actually change. So what we did here is something that you can have on your desk to switch your status. So if you're really stressed, you put it on the really stressed face, and if you're happy and want to be spoken to, you put it on that happy face, and you just use this object as an expression of yourself. So what's allowing this to happen? We have kind of a perfect storm of elements. Certainly advances in robotics. What's really helped my job is the affordability of sensors. Things that cost a lot of money before can now be embedded in everyday objects. Object tagging with things like RFID, wireless communications, and broadband. All of these things have started to accelerate at the same time to allow a lot of opportunity. And what this means is that we can start having this whole object interaction, and it really enhances the emotional value that objects have for us because we start to relate to them, the way we looked at that Mac light. This is a floor cleaning robot made by a company called Neato, and I worked on the design of a future version of this robot that is deliberately designed to be very expressive, because we knew from the Roomba that people tend to really get attached to their robots, and they give them names, and they don't want to give up that one they had because that's their special one. And they treat them like pets, and even my own mom will say, "Oh yeah, she did a really good job." So in our future version of this, we paid attention not only to lighting patterns and sound. I hired a sound designer to create an entire language for this robot so that it can express itself at different moments. For example, if stuck under a couch, there's a moment of distress. So what should a distressed sound like? And also we paid attention to movement. When does it stop or hesitate, and when does it move forward? But we're about to add another element to all of this in terms of the designer's palette, and that's networking. And that's what I'm really getting very excited about at the moment, because the conversation is about to get a lot more interesting. So now not only can it buzz and shimmy and shine and speak to you in so many ways, but it can also pull information from the cloud, and we'll start to have these objects that we're commonly starting to refer to as an Internet of Things. So things like a lamp or a coffee mug or even the cube on your desk can take data that's live on the internet and bring that back to you, and you can speak back to it and start this conversation that's much larger than between you and the object. During 2008, the number of things connected to the internet exceeded the number of people on Earth, according to Cisco Systems. By 2020, there will be 50 billion. So our world is going to be filled with these connected objects. We're starting to see some evidence of it now. This is Energy Hub, which my colleagues at SMART also worked on. And what this allows you to do is plug in your everyday appliances, such as a television set or a computer or a lamp or a fan, and you get what the researcher Mike Kuninovsky calls information shadows. So we can start to have a virtual representation of each of those objects. And then once you connect to the internet, what you can then do is start tracking utility rates, giving people information about their own behavior in using those objects, and so on and so forth, providing a really rich conversation. This is another object which some of you may have seen in the news. It's called the Nest thermostat. So not only are we relating to these objects when we're in the same room with them, but we can also relate to them remotely. With this and the other system, you can actually track what's happening in your home through a smartphone or mobile device, and you can actually start controlling your home from a distance. Where I'm starting to pay a lot of attention is in small startups that are thinking about this Internet of Things and really doing innovative things, because we're at kind of a bridge moment where we're going to see this technology in our new products, but it's not quite there yet. So this system, Mavia, plugs into an automobile, and then it's connected to the internet. And what it allows you to do is, for example, you can find where you parked your car, which is a problem for me all the time, because I always rent them and I don't know where they are. I don't even know what they look like. And you can have it send you a text message when you pass something relevant to you, or you can even set up a group of emergency contacts so that if something happens to you, you have this custom list of people who get alerted to know what's going on. And this is another one. It's called Green Goose. It's a small startup. And I'm really excited about this one. I've just ordered their first product and it hasn't come in yet. But I've become really obsessed with taking some of the sensors and things that I work with, and I've been putting them on my dog to see when he sleeps and when he's awake and how long is our walk. And this company has started to understand that I'm not the only one with these kind of nerdy intentions. And what they've done is they've created a series of stickers that you can attach to the everyday objects in your home. And the stickers show when some movement has happened with the object. And then it communicates with a hub that's attached to your modem. So what this essentially does is it's taking objects that are non-technological in any way, shape, or form and giving them a voice and the ability to connect to the internet and connect to this Internet of Things. So for example, if you want to know how often you watered the plant, you put a sticker on it. If you want to know when you fed the dog, you put a sticker on the dog food. When you want to know how many times you took him out, you put a sticker on the leash, and so on and so forth. And you can get as creative as you want with it. I saw a TED Talk by the fellow who created this, and he did have to talk playing the cello, and he had put one of the stickers on the bow of the cello. So this is all wonderful and good, and technology is so fascinating, but for me as a designer, it really has to matter to people in their everyday lives. So how does this really change people's lives in an everyday way? So I've started to envision a few different scenarios. These illustrations were created by my colleague Evan Allen, and we've been working on a point of view around the Internet of Things. So one thing that happens is learning and feedback allows people to have behavior change. So for example, people may want to eat healthier or know more about what's happening with, in this case, blood pressure. In the future, you might have a shirt that you wear, and the shirt can communicate and be connected, and it can let you know if you've had spikes in your reading or your blood pressures are normally high, and then it can connect you and give you some tracking. Where this really benefits is that people have a difficulty at the moment, but if they're able to view their behavior over time or see connections between maybe a change in your prescription or change in your diet, then they can start to really draw the lines together and make connections that will help them change their behavior. What I call analog plus is something that takes familiar devices and gives them the ability to see and hear. So for example, if this tennis racket were embedded with sensors that were also connected to the internet, it could start just quietly recording what's happening with your swing, give you coaching advice, compare you to other people who are also playing tennis. And with the Analog Plus idea, you don't have to learn to use this. You don't learn to use the computer or learn to use the mouse. You just use your objects in an everyday way. Anytime, anywhere is an enhanced view of location. So just like we saw with the Mavia, you can have your automobile that says, hey, there's a parking spot a couple of blocks away, or here are a few nearby restaurant reviews, and can give you guidance on what you need right at that moment. And then if we do things like object tagging, and we combine that with social networks, we can start to have objects that help people connect to communities. So in this scenario here, we have a wine bottle that maybe has an RFID tag or is somehow tagged so that it becomes part of this Internet of Things. And what people can do is they can keep track of how many bottles they have, how the bottles relate to one another, where this bottle actually came from, and get some education about the grapes in the region in France, for example. Your friends can also have a view into your collection. Maybe you're having a party, they can add to it. You can be part of a wine club where virtual collections compare to one another, etc. So in terms of designing these objects, and one of the things that's really exciting about doing a TED Talk is I know that the audience is so full of really creative people who are entrepreneurs and who are thinking about doing creative things with technology. and everyday objects. So there are a few things that help me in my work in terms of designing for an Internet of Things. One is that information overload is never fun. So you may have heard that there is a small subculture of people who are very into tracking everything they do. And that's not everyone. And what we try to keep in mind is information hierarchies, and also just isolating the information that's appropriate at a given moment. Another thing is what I call life now, data later. So it may be really interesting to know how much water you've used or how long you sat on the couch, but if you have to log onto a smartphone or flip some kind of switch control board, that's really not going to make your life better or be interesting. What you want to do is lead your life the way you normally do, and then be able to view the data later. So you can see trends, you can see what's happening, you can see what was happening with the utility rates, or what was happening with water globally. Context is everything. So if you're waiting by the bus or for a train, it might be fun to know that all your friends are nearby, or that there's a coupon at that coffee shop right there. But if you're driving by, you wouldn't want all of these things coming towards you all at once. So being aware of what's appropriate at the time and place is really something that's critical for designing a successful product in the Internet of Things. And communication defines personality. This is one that I think about a lot because even before the Simon project, I tend to look at objects and see little personalities in them, even if they don't move or talk or say anything. Even this Logitech camera, I tend to think is like a little parrot. It's going to walk around. So we want to think about the brand and the values that are going to be important to people. Like, what role does this object play in people's lives? And how does this personality fit with what it's supposed to be doing and the emotional context of the object. So thinking about those light patterns, those sounds, and the movement of the object are all going to contribute to a personality, combined with whatever information you want this device to display. And playing nice with others. So while it's really wonderful to have this coffee maker that's going to beep when the coffee's done, and this other washing machine that's going to text you when the clothes are ready, and the window thermometer, if you have all of these things beeping and texting you at the same time, it's going to drive you crazy. So being aware of the entire ecosystem of products that your product is within is really critical to keeping people happy and not having them go crazy. And finally, knowing when to borrow the screen is something that's also going to be very helpful, because whether we like it or not, people have these things with them all the time. And they allow for a really rich display. They also allow for a pretty rich interaction, much more than if you were trying to add lights and sound to an isolated object that's custom, that's made in small quantities. So sometimes you want to think about moments when you want to borrow the screen. For example, there are a lot of objects in the medical arena, blood pressure monitors, heart rate monitors, that do tether to a smartphone and use the screen for the richness of data, but still use the physical object for what's going to be what I call analog plus, something that is friendly and understandable to the person using it. So what's next is that we're just going to see a whole lot of these kind of objects, and I think it's a really exciting world. It's also going to be a bit of a cacophony, but if, as designers and entrepreneurs and business people, we work together to really keep people's needs in mind, I think it can be a really rich world. So, thank you.
Before we
Thank
watch
you.
this 20 minutes, I invite you to think about what kind of technology can you figure out after the previous video by Kim Box. Remember, Kim Box said to switch now to a company which is going to promote some social good with some kind of technology that we have not heard from her what kind of technology is possible. And then, because this is what technology and life, and I would like to shift your attentions to tell us, okay, going to help us to understand.
So we already heard Erik Kruse from Ericsson talk about how this infrastructure, talking about how. So we already heard Erik Kruse from Ericsson talk.
Yeah, it's good. That talk is excellent because there are a lot of good ideas. And from this, you understand that the trend of the Internet of Things, so it's more than the web that we know today, because it's going to hook up anything to the web. Suppose the web, the path that Khan talks about, if I would like to know your behavior, okay, the behavior, number of times that you're going to feed the dog, we're going to put some label where it is, the label is able to, and actually as a piece of technology, is get information from the internet about the kind of food or the kind of behavior you have. So I think it's very interesting when we talk about design technologies today. We have a lot of things to do, and if we want to categorize things here that we discussed, if you watch here, we can actually categorize back up here as measurements. You're putting a lot of things together, okay? And it's not just a mess up in a simple kind, it's a mess up in the Internet of Things, where a lot of new applications are going to come up, and you will be amazed by that. My questions to you and you and you at the very beginning is, what can you do with your Japanese, with your Portuguese, or with your governance knowledge to promote social good? Okay, so think a little bit more about this. I'm going to end today's class right here. So now let me remind you, if you look at the schedule, 1 week after you return from the holiday, you have the second set of learning artifacts to submit, okay? Make sure you study it, okay, get ready for something, and read my teacher's message by the end of today, which I'm going to send you, the teacher's message for this week, okay, which is going to remind you on what you need to do. And yes, have a very happy Chinese New Year, okay? You're going back to Beijing, where are you going back? You stay here, okay? You're going back to Hong Kong, not sure, okay? So have a very happy Chinese New Year. Let me finish the attendance for Tuesday and today too. And Alice, you were not here on Tuesday, right? You were here? No, you're not here, okay. So, this is on Tuesdays. Jack, have a very good trip back to Beijing, starting from this Saturday, right? Okay. And Calvin, are you going back to Hong Kong by this Saturday? Monday. Still have classes. Alice, are you from Macau? You're from Macau, okay. Actually, today is 13 on 12, right? Yesterday is 12. So it's still not get to use. Okay, thank you very much. And that's it for today. CISG114, Section 1 Web Technology and Light on February the 13th, 2015. Until after the Chinese New Year's holiday, stay tuned.